And hello YouTube, GSmaniamsmart here, and in today's video we're going to take a look at the launch trailer for Path of Fire, give you my thoughts and opinions, pick out some parts that I thought were really interesting, and maybe help you understand some of the parts better, and talk about what's coming up next for this next week, and kind of what's been happening in Guild Wars 2 as well. All that come up next. What's up guys, GSmaniamsmart here today with another brand new video for Gaming with GS, and welcome back to another video, and I welcome myself back as well. Looks like everything's gone back to normal after last week's Hurricane Irma recovery. My house is still intact, fortunately, and we pretty much everyone got internet and power back at some point last week. And glad to be back making videos. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, if you're interested in subscribing, I encourage you to do so. Plenty of other Guild Wars 2 content videos on the channel, and with Path of Fire releasing this Friday, we'll have plenty more videos regarding Path of Fire as well. So if you're interested in the expansion, new to Guild Wars 2, interested in Guild Wars 2, go and hit that subscribe button as well as that post notification bell so you can stay up to date with all the most recent videos. So yes, it's true, depending on when you're watching this video, we are about 3 to 2 to 1 day away from Path of Fire. If you happen to watch this video tomorrow, then it'll be 1 day for you, but very close to the launch of the new expansion. And with that, ArenaNet has released a launch trailer. Now you'll see the launch trailer loop in the background of the video a few times, and I also have some still shots taken out from it to sort of discuss a few things that I thought were interesting, and that may give us a few sneak peeks into what we can expect for this expansion. But before I do that, I just want to quickly go over what's been happening for the past few weeks in Guild Wars 2. Really not that much. A lot of community events, a lot of different contests, a lot of developer posts, and people really just getting excited for the expansion. There was a few patches, but a lot of the patches are really just really small. Bug fixing, bug crashing, not bug crashing, crash fixes, and everything around those sort of things. There was no real huge patch, so if you haven't played Guild Wars 2 for the past 2 weeks or so, you haven't really missed out anything. The last major patch that got put into the game was really with World vs. World gliding coming in, and the bordered areas where now each section of the World vs. World map has a border. Those have become really helpful. I found myself also liking them a lot. And one thing that was questionable, I remember in a previous video we did mention that developers said they're going to be adding current events while we wait for Path of Fire. And well, that really hasn't happened. I don't know if production of that got slowed down or if they decided they want to implement it into the game after Path of Fire. But for some reason, whatever reason it is, looks like current events never did get put into the game. We do know from an interview from developers that current events were planned to be put into the game between that break of Living World Season 3, Episode 6 and the Path of Fire expansion, but that didn't seem to happen. Nonetheless, though, they've put other great things into the game, and people have been pretty busy trying to get legendary trinkets, trying to get legendary backpacks, all kinds of cool stuff. So let's go ahead and jump into this Path of Fire launch trailer. A lot of cool things we noticed from this trailer. One thing I will say is that the music in this trailer was really well done. A lot of people like the music in it, and I have to agree. There's a collection of songs that are mixed really well in this trailer, and it really helps tell the story here. The other thing that you'll notice in this trailer is that's not there's no CGI in this trailer. Usually, for a lot of the trailers ArenaNet does, especially for expansion releases, for Heart of Thorns, we had CGI. For even the original Guild Wars 2 game, the base game, there was CGI also included for the launch trailer. But it looks like this time around, they're focusing a lot more on in-game gameplay and even more so on story. There's not a lot of talk about features here or new systems, or you know how like general launch trailers usually come out, you know, with some text and with some motion graphics in them saying, oh, new mounts, new systems, new specializations, and all that stuff, and you'll have some, you know, text in it. Well, this trailer doesn't have any of that really. It's mostly just a bunch of footage cut together with some audio over it, and this is great for players who've been playing long term because it gives us it gives us a huge look at what's to come for the game story wise, as well as give us a bit more background on the story that we're going to be expecting in Path of Fire. However, for newer players and people who don't know anything about Guild Wars 2, I feel like this trailer is lacking a bit because any person who's never heard of Guild Wars 2, they won't be able to relate to this trailer at all. There's no mention of daily specializations or of the mounts. Mounts are shown in the trailer and specializations are shown in the trailer, but if you've never played Guild Wars 2, then you wouldn't even recognize what's new this expansion and what's not new this expansion. So that was the only criticism that I had, and a lot of people had the same criticism, that there wasn't really any attention grabber for new players. But I think for the current player base, and maybe even some people that have followed Guild Wars 2 a little bit, I think the trailer is great and a lot of content in it. The other thing that I noticed about this trailer is that's a really long trailer. I mean, usually a lot of trailers that we got for Living World were about 30, 45 seconds, maybe a minute if we were lucky. This trailer is basically 3 to 4, maybe even 5 Living World episode trailers combined into one. That's how long this trailer is, and there's a lot of content in it, and I do appreciate that. And like I said before, while there isn't much focus on specializations or mounts, what we do see in the trailer regarding those new features, it does blend in really well with the actual storytelling that happens throughout the trailer. So good job on that. Now, one thing that's very noticeable in this trailer is that Balthazar is the main attention and basically the main character in this trailer. He's basically the main character in the entire expansion even. This is the main antagonist that we're going against, and it's made pretty clear throughout the trailer this is the person we're going to be going against. However, there is some audio during the trailer that also suggests that this isn't the only threat that we'll be facing in Path of Fire. And with some of the footage that we got beforehand, and with some of the leaks, and with some of the interviews, and with so much information out at this point already about Path of Fire, we do know that there might be an encounter with Kraukatorek, which is another Elder Dragon. We do know that there might be an encounter with Palawa Joko, who is the leader or the master of the undead. So the trailer does have some audio bites and a few images as well that allude to Palawa Joko and to Kraukatorek, and that those two forces might also be major threats alongside Balthazar. So it's going to be really interesting to see how those two other antagonists play into Balthazar. Are they also going to be, fighting against us? Are they going to be fighting against Balthazar because they don't like what he's doing? It's going to be really interesting to see which forces end up joining each other, which forces end up going against each other, or if there's going to be a multi-way conflict between, 4 different factions, essentially Balthazar and whoever sides with him, the undead Kraukatorek, and then our team, the player character and all the other characters that are going to be at the forefront of this expansion. Now, at one point in the trailer, we do see, and throughout the trailer, there is one character that seems to stand out, and some people are saying that this might be a main character that is brought back into the game, or it's someone from a long time ago, or it might be someone that we've never seen before, and it's another character they're bringing to the game. And this is the person with the black hair that ends up mounting one of the mounts. You see him throughout the trailer. When Balthazar attacks, it looks like he's attacking the player character. That's basically what this person is. It's the player character. This isn't someone that's, crucial to the story that everyone's going to encounter. This is just an example character that ArenaNet made. So this isn't anyone special, really. It's just someone they created for the purpose of this trailer. But one shot that I found really interesting very early on is this shot right here, where it looks like there's some type of ice coming down from some of these pillars here. It looks like there's a very big gap over the bridge here. And this gets me thinking if this might be a jumping puzzle, or if this might be some of the type of terrain that we're getting. It definitely looks like another type of map as well. I didn't see this in the beta map that we got. It also doesn't look like this is a very deserty style place. It looks like this might be a mountainous place. And the fact that there's ice around the top of the screen here, this doesn't look like it's part of the desert. So this is interesting because this could be a whole nother map, and if this is a whole nother map, it already looks really cool. I know some people suggested that maybe you could use a Springer to jump on top of some of these pillars and then keep on jumping higher, and you can use the Raptor to jump over the huge gap. So this jumping puzzle area, or this new map, whatever it may be, this looks really interesting, and I'm really liking the look of this. Another shot that I found really interesting, and more so the audio portion of this.
We know there's something in the desert that will help us turn the tide against Balthazar.
is when we get a voiceover saying that there's something in the desert. And if you've watched the trailer in its entirety, you'll learn that there is a weapon actually that is in the desert here that we are trying to get, or that Balthazar is trying to get. So there's actually several reasons why we've come to this desert, not only because of a weapon, but also because Balthazar came here. So it's important to note that we're not just in the desert because Balthazar is here and we're following him. There's also another objective at hand, and who knows, with a bunch of these new forces coming in like Kralkatorrik and the Undead, there may be even more objectives at hand, which could really push Living World Season 4 into so many different directions. And who knows how big the expansion might be, or Season 4 of the Living World, but there's a lot to go through. And I think developers have a lot of different ways to deal with some of these objectives and to deal with a lot of these different factions that we're going to be dealing with throughout the expansion. The main line here is when we hear that there's something in the desert that can help us turn the tide against Balthazar. That's basically the reference to this weapon that's supposedly in this desert that Balthazar is trying to get, and we're trying to get it as well. Then in this next shot, we have a picture of a Deadeye, and throughout the trailer, there are several shots where we have maybe like 2-second clips of the elite specializations performing a skill or in combat or something like this. And this is sort of how they're blending in the elite specializations with the rest of the video, which is done really well. However, like I said, the only downside is that people who haven't played Guild Wars 2 won't really know that this is an elite specialization. But for those of us who do know, this looks like another map that might be there. There's some rain coming down here. It looks more green. Maybe this might be an older map that we're going to. Maybe it's an ore map, Siren's Landing. So not really sure where this could be. It could be a whole entire new map, and that would be interesting because, you know, I didn't see much greenery in the desert, but this grass here looks pretty green, so it would be interesting to see where this is. The next shot that we have here, another really nice looking shot here, and it looks like another map as well. This definitely isn't the Oasis, it definitely isn't the beta map that we were in. It looks like a whole nother map, and we do see the skimmer in this shot as well, which is one of the mounts that allows you to basically float over water. And this is probably a lot of people's most favorite mount so far because the ability to float over water, and it's just a different style of mount, not one that's focused on land or traveling through land, but one that's actually traversing through water and having a float mechanic. So it's kind of like, I think of it like some type of magic carpet that you can ride on, only that it's actually an animal mount. So really cool shot here, I'm liking it. In this next shot, we do see some branded here, and I'm not sure if these are new types of branded enemies or if these are old type of branded enemies. They look like we've seen them before, but then again, I haven't spent too much time in the branded maps, especially since those are usually geared towards the lower levels or towards level 60, 70, 50. So I haven't spent too much time in the branded maps, but I'm not sure these are new branded. If they are, that's great. I would love to see some new branded enemies though, especially since that seems to be a theme in this expansion. But you can definitely tell that this is a new map. We're finally going to get a level 80 map that has to do with the branded, which is what we're pretty much missing. There isn't a level 80 map that deals with branded. We have a level 80 map in the ice region. We have a level 80 map in ore with several level 80 maps. And one of the places that's really lacking a higher level zone is the Ascalonian area, or the branded area, where you have the huge scar going down the map. So this looks like it might be another great map here. It might look entirely different from the desert. It might be much more darker than the Oasis map that we saw. The next shot here is actually one of several. I think there are about 2 or 3 different times in the trailer where we see the full cast of characters, or presumably the full cast of characters. What it looks like is that we basically have a set of characters for this expansion. With a player character, we have Ritlock, Casimir, and then we have Kanak. And those are pretty much the major characters in this expansion. What's interesting is that they're going with a smaller set of characters this time compared to Heart of Thorns. There were a lot of different characters in there. You got some character development, but it did feel like it was lacking a bit. So with a smaller cast of characters for this expansion, it looks like we might be getting more character development. We might be learning more about these characters. And because the expansion is driven by story, because it's driven by content, and content is usually linked with story, it does look like we'll be getting a lot more information on these sets of characters. Whether we'll see Bram, or whether we'll see Marjorie, or whether we'll see any of the other characters in this expansion, I'm not entirely sure. Maybe we'll hear about them. But for the most part, I think we'll see them more so in Living World Season 4 rather than the expansion. The next shot here is also very important, I feel like, and the next series of shots here, actually. This part of the video gets really interesting. I think this is, in this area of the trailer is probably some of the best shots here that you're going to get, because it tells a lot about what could possibly happen in the story and what could possibly happen in the expansion. The first shot here is of Casimir, and she has a pretty devastated face as if someone's going to die or something's gone really wrong. And I've seen some people say that maybe the player character might die, maybe one of the main characters might die. I don't think it's going to be the player character, because that would just be kind of awkward if the player character dies and if he comes back alive, you know, we're the player character. It doesn't make much sense. It could be that maybe one of the main characters dies, maybe Kanak, Ritlock, Casimir, or, you know, maybe one of those characters, but also that seems very unlikely because the cast of characters is already pretty small, so killing off one of them would just make it even smaller. So I don't think it might be that. What I do think it might be is, and you'll get a clue here from this next shot, is where we get to see a dragon go against Balthazar. Now, in the distance, you'll see a dragon there. And what it might be is that Casimir has this devastated face because of this dragon that's coming at Balthazar. And a later shot, another shot here that you'll see, is that Balthazar actually strikes the dragon, attacks the dragon, and presumably maybe he kills that dragon, and then Casimir is shocked by it, and something's gone terribly wrong because the dragon wasn't supposed to die. Now, which type of dragon this might be? Could it be Kralkatorrik? I don't think so, mainly because it looks kind of small. Some people have guessed that it might be Kralkatorrik. Some people have said that it's impossible to be because elder dragons are usually a lot bigger. Some people have also thought that it might be Aurene, but then Aurene dying, that kind of wouldn't make too much sense because we really haven't interacted with Aurene too much. I mean, we interacted with her a lot in the earlier parts of Living World Season 3 and not so much in the later stages, so I don't think they're going to kill off Aurene, but it could be a possibility. Maybe they scale her up to this size over the course of the expansion, and then she actually goes into combat. What I've seen a lot going around, and what I do agree with, and I think Wooden Potatoes also mentioned this in his video, and this is a theory that a lot of people have been supporting on the subreddit and the forums, that this might be Gleam. And Gleam is one of the children's from Glint. Glint is one of the dragons that was part of the original Guild Wars story, and she had two baby dragons. They were Aurene and they were Gleam. Now, this could be the other dragon, not Aurene, but Gleam, and maybe this is the dragon that Balthazar strikes, and then essentially maybe even kills it, and then Casimir has this reaction of, oh no, something terrible has gone wrong, now Gleam is dead. So this seems more likely only because we haven't really interacted with the Gleam very much. We know that we know that a dragon by that name is around. We know from lore, we know from, you know, it's been mentioned a few times, and it would make sense that a character that we haven't, or not a character, a dragon that we haven't interacted with too much would be the one that gets the attack from Balthazar and that essentially ends up dying to give that devastation on Casimir's face some reason. So those are the theories that I've seen. Those are the theories that I think could happen as well, especially the Gleam theory. If that does end up happening, I gotta say that's a really great way to integrate Gleam into the story, because up until this point, it hasn't really been brought up much. So that would be really awesome to see. Not obviously see her get killed, but to see it actually, you know, be incorporated is really awesome. The next piece of audio that I thought was interesting in the next piece of shot, we see Ritlock here in an area, not really sure where this might be, but he says, I fear that he may get the weapon.
I fear he may get the weapon. If he does, the consequences will be unpredictable.
And the weapon he's referring to, what I've seen floating around so far, and what would make sense, is a spear that was mentioned in the second novel of Guild Wars. Now, if you haven't read any of the Guild Wars novels, there are several of them, and in the second novel, it was mentioned that there is a spear that can kill elder dragons. Now, with this information in mind, And with this information in mind, that earlier in the trailer we did hear Ritlock saying that Balthazar is trying to get the weapon, and now he's saying, I fear that he might get this weapon. And because we know that Balthazar is going against the Elder Dragons, he wants to kill the Elder Dragons, and essentially he'll need something to kill the Elder Dragons. And because of this spear, if you connect the dots all together, what it looks like is that Balthazar is trying to get the spear that is supposedly has the ability to kill Elder Dragons, and we know this based off of the second novel. And one of the storylines that we could be facing in this expansion is Balthazar trying to get the spear. We're trying to get it first before he can, or he ends up getting the spear and then he ends up causing destruction. But I think we're going to end up being the hero and either getting the spear first, or the spear may not even be found. Maybe no one finds the spear. So that's one of the theories that's been going around that I think has some value and I can agree with. So maybe that has something to do with what we'll experience in the expansion. But overall, the idea is really awesome as well, because finally developers are going back to their roots, even so far as to the novels, to actually integrate some of that stuff into the expansion. That would be really awesome. And a lot of people who've read those novels would appreciate even more so. Another great shot I saw here was that all the main characters here are mounted. Now, if this actually happens in the story, and if we can, actually see characters interact with their mounts, Casimir's on a mount, Ritlog's on a raptor here, we're on our mount. If we end up seeing some of these characters have these mounts throughout the expansion, throughout the living world, that will be really cool, because it continues to make mounts relevant. It continues to help players get an attachment with some of these mounts, because now they're seeing them be brought up in the story and through the episodes. That will be really cool. And having the main characters be attached to a specific mount would make sense. I mean, we have several mounts, so that would be a really cool idea. Another shot that we see here that I see a lot of people seem to have liked this shot, including myself. We see a giant machine type of mech war machine. It looks like a giant robot, and we just see one of the mobs actually get stomped right into the ground by this war machine, and it looks really awesome. But what could this be? That's the big question. What could this be? I'm always leaning towards saying it's a world boss. If you watched previous videos, every time I see something huge, a huge enemy, I always think it's a world boss. So I'm hoping this is a world boss, but in reality, every time I've thought before that it's a world boss, it ends up not being a world boss. So I'm not gonna, try and get my hopes up for being a new world boss. But if it is, then this is a really freaking cool boss, and it's pretty big. It looks pretty dangerous, and with the new AI that ArenaNet has implemented, with the more difficult maps and the more difficult enemies that we currently have in some of the higher level areas, especially the newer maps and in Heart of Thorns and what we'll see in Path of Fire, this could be actually a challenging boss that will require a lot of effort. So that would be a great addition to the game, but who knows what this creature is. Maybe it's part of a cutscene, maybe it's something that we won't even be able to fight. Who knows what it is, but I'm looking forward to see how it plays into the expansion. And then the last shot that I thought was really interesting was at the end here, where we see Balthazar, we see the purple in the background, which could signify maybe Kralkatorrik, and we see some Palawat Jako statues in the background as well, or at least I think that's what these are. And I think this is a great summary shot here. It sort of summarizes the expansion really well. We'll have some conflict with the undead. Maybe we'll have to deal with those forces. That might be an antagonist. We'll have Kralkatorrik. That will be an antagonist. We'll have Balthazar, another antagonist. And from an earlier shot that we talked about, how we saw Balthazar going against the Elder Dragon, maybe the Elder Dragon will actually be going against Balthazar as well, and we'll have some help killing Balthazar. Who knows? But from this end shot right here, it does look like we'll be facing 3 major conflicts here, and that's one of the things that I thought was really well done also. Now, one thing that I was also disappointed about was that we didn't really get to see any footage of Vabi, and this is another area of the map that we're supposed to be going to with the release of some of the images from the new maps that we're going to. And some people have, seen new images of maps that haven't been released yet. And if we take a guess of where we're going to be going in the Crystal Desert, it looks like we're going to be going southeast, south in that region, then we should be coming across Vabi. But we haven't really seen any of that in the trailer so far, and who knows if we're going there. Maybe this trailer doesn't really focus on every map that we're going to the expansion. There could still be maybe a couple maps or 3 maps that they haven't shown in this trailer. And I'm hoping that's the case because I would really love to see that area. And a lot of people are looking forward to go to that area. So hopefully they haven't shown every map in the trailer so far, because that means there are still some surprises to get to, and that's what I love to see. One of the things that I really didn't like about when they announced the expansion was that they announced everything. Basically, they announced all the features, they announced all the systems, they announced, you know, basically everything that the expansion was offering. And I always felt like there wasn't enough left for players to be surprised about. But if you think about it, there kind of is, and there now is even more, especially with the launch trailer out. This is the last thing they're going to be releasing before the game actually does release. I don't think they're going to be releasing anything else. So there's still some surprises that we are in store for, that we don't know what we're getting. Some maps, the look of the Elder Dragon, and the story in general. You know, we have some theories here, we have some guesses, but as we know, sometimes our theories really don't ever get very far. Sometimes they do, but we'll have to see how those play out when the expansion releases. So that's basically the launch trailer for you. Just wanted to give you a little summary of it, give you some few outtakes that I thought were really cool and interesting, and maybe give you some more background on it and help explain a few things that you may have been confused about. If you haven't purchased Path of Fire yet, you can still do so, and you can still pre-order it. If you purchase before Friday, before the release day, the 22nd of September, you will still be able to get the pre-order bonuses. You'll be able to get a new title, you'll be able to get a new miniature, a new outfit. So several things that you can get from pre-ordering the game. And if you want to do so with my affiliate link that will help support the channel, you can do so by clicking the link in the description. That would be really appreciated, and I'd be thankful for that. Some of you have already done so, a small number of you, and appreciate that. So if you haven't pre-purchased yet, you can do so. But you never have to do that. You can always wait for the reviews to come out. You can always wait till it's actually been released and you can see me play it as well as some other YouTubers play it, and then you can make your decision there. So hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you have any comments, any feedback on the video, any suggestions, anything that you saw in the trailer that you thought was cool that I may have missed, anything that I got wrong maybe, or you have another theory that you want to share, leave it in the comment section down below. I'll be down there talking to you guys as usual and answering your questions, and, you know, sort of theorizing with you if you have any theories that I may have missed or I may not have thought of. That'll be great to hear as well. If you want to check out my most recent video, click the annotation here. You want to check out some of the videos as well, click the annotation here. Want to subscribe to the channel or my other channels, click the annotation here. And if you want to donate $1 to my Patreon page, you can click the annotation here. That's pretty much it, guys. Thank you for watching as always. This is GSmaniamsmart, and I'll be back sooner than you think. Don't go anywhere.